An evening in July, 1956. Above the vast, dark expanse of the Atlantic Ocean, the sky is clear and the water is a sheet of glass. Italy's floating masterpiece, the magnificent liner SS Andrea Doria, is gliding through the final hours of its journey to New York City. Inside, the first-class lounge hums with the sophisticated sounds of a live orchestra. Crystal glasses clink, passengers are laughing, their minds filled with the promise of tomorrow's arrival in America. For the 1,134 passengers and 572 crew, this was the triumphant conclusion of a 9-day voyage. Everything was, by all accounts, perfect. You see, all was normal. But they were unknowingly sailing into a veil of fog and into a convergence of fate. They did not know that in just a few hours, their lives and the unwritten rules of maritime safety would be changed forever. Because hidden in that same dark ocean, another vessel, with its own crew and its own mission, was speeding towards them on a collision course with destiny. The SS Andrea Doria wasn't just a ship, it was a national statement, a symbol of Italy's stunning post-war recovery and its return to the world stage as a leader in design and engineering. Launched in 1951, the 212-meter vessel was a floating art gallery, adorned with murals and artwork from Italy's finest artists. But beneath its beauty was a brain of steel and circuits. It was equipped with the most advanced technology of its time, including 2 separate radar systems. Critically, it was built with 11 watertight compartments, a design feature that led its builders and the public to believe it was practically unsinkable. At its helm was Captain Piero Calamai, a 58-year-old mariner of impeccable reputation. He was a veteran of 2 world wars and deeply respected by his crew. This was his 51st transatlantic crossing to New York. For Captain Calamai, this voyage was pure routine. Simultaneously, another ship had just cast off its lines from the port of New York City, the MS Stockholm. Operated by the Swedish-American line, this was a smaller, more functional vessel. It was a workhorse, built not for opulence, but for endurance. Her bow was specially reinforced with a sharpened rake, designed to smash through the thick ice of the North Atlantic. It was, in effect, a battering ram. Her captain, Harry Gunnar Nordenson, was outbound for Gothenburg, Sweden, carrying a mix of tourists and émigrés. For him, this was simply the beginning of another routine crossing. 2 ships, one a palace of luxury, her journey nearly over. The other a tough workhorse, her journey just beginning. Both were sailing under the watchful eye of their radar systems. But soon, a dense, wet fog would descend, becoming a treacherous wall between them, a wall where the most advanced technology of the day would not prevent a catastrophe, but would, in fact, help cause it. 9:45 p.m. The Andrea Doria sails into a thick bank of fog, a common occurrence in these waters. In accordance with safety protocols, Captain Calamai orders a slight reduction in speed and the activation of the ship's powerful foghorn, blasting a single, deep tone into the night every 100 seconds. On the brightly lit bridge, officers watched the green sweep of the radar screen with confidence. 10:20 p.m. Miles away, on the bridge of the Stockholm, Third Officer Johan Ernst Carstens Johansson, who is on watch, spots a single blip on his radar. It's the Andrea Doria, 12 nautical miles away and closing. Based on his reading, the ships would pass each other safely, port to port or left side to left side, with more than a mile of sea between them. This was standard textbook procedure. He felt no alarm. 10:45 p.m. Aboard the Andrea Doria, the officers saw the same blip, but their interpretation was critically different. Due to a misreading of the radar, they believed the approaching vessel was on a course that would take it to their right, for a starboard-to-starboard passing. To give this unknown ship even more room, Captain Calamai made a small, but what would prove to be a catastrophic decision. He ordered a slight turn of 4 degrees to his left, to port. It was a decision born of caution, meant to increase the margin of safety. The fatal error was now in motion. Both ships were watching each other, yet reading the same evidence in dangerously opposite ways. The officer on the Stockholm, seeing the Doria was now even closer to his path, decided to give it more room. Believing a port-to-port pass was still on, He ordered a turn to his right, to starboard. Aboard the Doria, they saw the Stockholms turn on their radar, which only confirmed their incorrect assumption that the ship wanted to pass on their right. So they held their course to the left. Two prudent decisions made in isolation had the combined effect of canceling each other out. Instead of leading them apart, each turn aimed them more directly at one another. 11:10 p.m. Out of the impenetrable wall of fog, the crew of the Stockholm suddenly sees it. The lights of the Andrea Doria, a towering, luminous wall of steel, less than a mile away and bearing down on them. Panic erupts on the bridge. Captain Nordenson, who had just been called, ordered the engines full astern and a hard turn to port, a desperate last-second maneuver. But it was far too late. At that exact moment, Captain Calamai, standing on the wing of his bridge, saw the Stockholm's lights cut through the fog. He stared in disbelief as the smaller ship, instead of passing safely, was aimed directly at his side. All he could utter was, "Oh mio Dio, she is coming right at us." The sound was indescribable, a deafening, grinding roar of metal on metal that ripped through the night. The Stockholm's ice-breaking bow, a tool of survival, became a weapon of destruction. It plunged 30 feet into the starboard side of the Andrea Doria, tearing through cabins and steel plates. The impact point was devastating, slicing through 7 of the ship's 11 unsinkable watertight compartments. Aboard the Andrea Doria, the world turned upside down. The festive atmosphere vaporized into sheer terror and confusion. The ship immediately began to list at an alarming rate. Lights flickered and died, plunging the vessel into darkness. Passengers sleeping in their cabins were thrown violently from their beds. Water, cold and black, began to pour in. The unsinkable ship was mortally wounded. Her sinking was now inevitable. The severe list had another deadly consequence. All 8 lifeboats on the port side were rendered useless, hanging inboard over the deck. The 8 lifeboats on the starboard side, now hanging far out over the water, were all that remained for over 1,700 souls. With his ship dying beneath him, Captain Calamai ordered the SOS signal to be broadcast across the Atlantic. "We are colliding. Danger. Immediate assistance." In a strange twist of fate, the Stockholm, though its bow was mangled, was in no danger of sinking. Her crew, after a period of confusion, began the first rescue operations, pulling survivors from the cold water and launching their own lifeboats. But they could not save everyone. The situation was desperate. And then, out of the darkness, a new hope emerged. The elegant French luxury liner, Ile de France, captained by the noble Raoul de Boudien, heard the SOS. He was on a tight schedule, but without hesitation, he made the courageous decision to turn his fully loaded passenger liner into a rescue ship, racing at full speed towards the disaster site. What followed was one of the largest and most successful peacetime rescue operations in maritime history. When the brilliant lights of the Ile de France pierced through the fog, survivors said it looked like a floating cathedral. With incredible skill, her crew illuminated the scene and methodically rescued 753 people. Other ships, like the fruit carrier Cape, and also rushed to assist. By dawn, an astonishing 1,660 people had been brought to safety. As the sun rose, the world watched in horror. 11 hours after the collision, at 10:09 a.m. on July 26th, the Andrea Doria, the pride of Italy, rolled onto her side, lifted her stern to the sky, and slid forever into the cold depths of the Atlantic. In the lengthy investigation that followed, the incident was famously dubbed a radar-assisted collision. Both shipping lines engaged in a bitter legal battle, with each captain blaming the other. Ultimately, they settled out of court, and no official blame was ever assigned, leaving a legacy of controversy. But the disaster was a brutal wake-up call. It led directly to the creation of new, stricter international regulations, including mandatory traffic separation schemes, virtual highways at sea to ensure that ships in congested areas never face such ambiguity again. In total, 51 lives were lost that night, 46 on the Andrea Doria, many of whom were killed instantly in the collision, and 5 crew members on the Stockholm. Their deaths were a tragedy, but the lessons learned from their sacrifice have undoubtedly saved countless lives in the decades since. Today, the Andrea Doria rests on the seabed, 240 feet down. It has become known as the Mount Everest of scuba diving, a beautiful but treacherous sight that has claimed the lives of over a dozen divers drawn to its ghostly allure. It remains a silent monument to a night of fatal misjudgments, and a testament to the heroism that followed. It is a story of how the most advanced technology of an era failed, and how in the face of disaster, the courage of ordinary people became the only thing that mattered.